Good morning. Today, we will be discussing contemporary global governance. This report delves into the multifaceted landscape of global governance, examining the institutions, actors, and challenges shaping our collective future. At the end of this session, you will gain comprehensive understanding of global governance, explore international organizations and their powers, examine the United Nations, including its history, branches, rationale, member countries, benefits, limitations, and challenges. So let's define what global governance is. Global governance is the capacity within the international system at any given moment to provide government-like services and public goods in the absence of a world government. Ang ibig sabihin kani is kakayahan kang sistema na magtauning serbisyo like sa pamahalaan at pampublikong kalakal. Nagpapahiwati inining kakayahan kang mga institusyon pati mga organisasyon to give coordination, regulation, and solutions sa mga issue at hamon. Sa pamamagitan nito ay nagkakaroon ng pagkakaisa at koordinisasyon to solve problems and implementation of policies. It also refers to the system of decision-making and cooperation among international actors, including states, intergovernmental organizations, non-governmental organizations, and civil society. Ito ay tumutukoy sa proseso ng paggawa ng desisyon at pagtutulungan sa pagitan ng mga pandaigdigang aktor. This is crucial to resolve issues tulad ng kahirapan, pandemya, pagbabago ng klima, at mga paglabag sa karapatang pantao. Ito ay naglalayong magtaguyod ng kooperasyon at pagkakaisa upang makamit ang kaunlaran at kapayapaan.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Diego Andrea Bugtong, reporting the International Organization. An international organization is one that includes members from more than one nation. Some international organizations are very large, such as corporations. Others are small and dedicated to a specific purpose, such as conservation of a species, like National Geographic. Here are notable examples of international organizations: United Nations, Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe, Bank for International Settlements, Council of Europe, International Labour Organization, International Criminal Court, and International Criminal Police Organization. In the Philippines belongs to a number of international organizations, including the United Nations, the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, or ASEAN, in regional form, Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Forum, and in the International Monetary Fund, the World Bank, and the World Trade Organization, among others. Intergovernmental organizations. So, many international organizations are intergovernmental. What is intergovernmental? The term Intergovernmental Organization, or IGO, refers to an entity created by treaty involving two or more nations to work in good faith or issues of common interest. So, it means that the IGO is created by treaty or bilateral between two states or multilateral between three or more states to form a binding agreements between nations and become part of international law. Intergovernmental organizations arise from multiple governments forming an international organization. There are more than 300 governmental organizations around the world. International organizations have existed since the 19th century, but it is really during the second half of the 20th century that they have increased in number and in importance. Today, there are a few hundred international organizations around the world, from small technical organizations established between neighboring states like bilateral river commissions to universal organizations entrusted with crucial political tasks like United Nations. International organizations play an important role in what we call the global governance. Their expertise and professionalism relied upon by states, and states often turn to them in order to design, decide, and implement common policies. There are three concepts of international organization. 1. International organization can be defined as an association of states, which are always the result of a free intent to get together and act together, means a group of people from different countries who work together towards a common goal. Number 2. As an association, international organization has members. In many instances, those members are states and often referred to as being intergovernmental organization, serving a specific task. Organizations are based on functionalism. They are there to fulfill certain matter. The role of international organization is helping to set the international agenda, mediating political bargaining, and providing places for political instances. They facilitate cooperation and a common goal, coordination among member nations. In addition, they promote global initiatives aimed at reducing inequality like the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. Among international organizations, the United Nations has the longest and most significant experience with peace operators.
Powers of international organizations. Normative power. In normative power, they can influence and shape international norms, standards, and values through their policies, resolutions, and declarations. Normative in the sense they are concerned with norms. Jurists are more concerned with understanding how the system and certain behaviors came to be and what implications this have for justice in international relations. Next is operational power. Many international organizations have the ability to implement programs, provide assistance, and undertake initiatives in areas such as peacekeeping, humanitarian aid development, and trade facilitation. So operational power refers to the ability of a member state or entity to influence decision-making and implement policies effectively within the organization's framework. It often depends on the factors such as financial contributions, diplomatic load, and military capabilities. Next is political power. International organizations serve as platforms for diplomacy, negotiation, and conflict resolution, enabling member states to engage in dialogue, mediation, and collective decision-making. So political power refers to the ability of member states or groups to shape decisions and agendas through influence, alliances, and resources, reflecting their geopolitical interests and capabilities. Another power of international organization is economic power. Some international organizations, such as the World Bank, the International Monetary Fund, and the World Trade Organization, have significant influence over global economic policies, financial stability, and trade regulations. Economic power can be defined as an individual, a firm, or a country having access to wealth, valuable natural resources, monopoly power, or superior technology. It can also be described as a country's ability to improve the living standard of each citizen. Last is legal power. They establish frameworks, conventions, treaties, and agreements that govern international behavior, promote adherence to international law, and provide mechanisms for dispute resolution. Legal power in the context of international organizations refers to the authority granted to these entities by their member states to establish and enforce rules, regulations, and agreements that have legal implications across borders. This power is typically derived from treaties, agreements, and resolutions ratified by member states, giving the organization the ability to make decisions that are binding on its members.
So, what is United Nations? The United Nations is an international organization founded in 1945 after the Second World War by 51 countries committed to maintain international peace and security, developing friendly relations among nations and promoting social progress between living standards and human rights.
So let's move on to the short history of the United Nations. As the Second World War raged, the leaders of the United Kingdom, China, the United States, and the Soviet Union, under intense pressure from the press and public, discussed the details of a post-war organization. Sabi rito, habang nagaganap daw ang ikalawang digmaang pandaigdig, ang mga pinuno ng nasabing lugar ay nagtalakay sa mga detalye ng isang organisasyon pagkatapos ng digmaan. In 1944, representatives meeting at the Hampton Oaks in Washington, D.C. prepared a blueprint for an international organization. Towards the end of the war, representatives of 50 countries gathered in San Francisco between April and June 1945 to hammer out the final text that would lay the foundations of international cooperation. Noong 1944, ang mga kinatawan ay nagplano raw para sa isang pandaigdigang organisasyon. Sila ay nagtipon-tipon mula April to June 1945 sa pagtatapos ng digmaan upang ayusin ang huling teksto para sa pundasyon ng pandaigdigang kooperasyon. This was the Charter of the United Nations, signed on 26 June by 50 countries. Poland, the 51st country, was not able to send a representative to the San Francisco Conference but is considered an original member. Ang Poland ay itinuturing na isang orihinal na miyembro ng United Nations kahit na hindi sila nakapagpadala ng kinatawan sa San Francisco Conference noong 1945. Ito ay dahil sa kanilang malaking kontribusyon sa laban-laban sa ikalawang digmaang pandaigdig at ang kanilang partisipasyon sa mga pagpupulong at pagpaplano na humantong sa pagbuo ng Karta ng UN.
Branches of United Nations. The Charter established 6 principal organs of the United Nations: the General Assembly, the Security Council, the Economic and Social Council, the Trusteeship Council, the International Court of Justice, and the Secretariat. The United Nations family, however, is much larger, encompassing 15 agencies and several programs and bodies. Let's talk first about the General Assembly, which is the main deliberative organ of the UN and is composed of representatives of all member states. The work of the United Nations year-round derives largely from the mandates given by the General Assembly. Comprising all member states of the United Nations, it provides a unique forum for multilateral discussion of the full spectrum of international issues covered by the Charter. The Assembly meets in regular session intensively from September to December each year and thereafter as required. Decisions on important questions such as those on peace and security, admission of new members, and budgetary matters require a 2/3 majority. Decisions on other questions are by simple majority. Each country has one vote. So the General Assembly serves as the primary decision-making body of the United Nations, bringing together representatives from all member states. It holds regular sessions from September to December and as needed thereafter, providing a crucial platform for discussing a wide range of international issues outlined in the UN Charter. Major decisions related to peace, security, membership, and budget require a two-thirds majority, while other matters are decided by a simple majority, with each country having one vote. This structure ensures that all member states have a voice in shaping the UN's agenda and actions. Second is the Security Council, has primary responsibility under the UN Charter for the maintenance of international peace and security. The Council is composed of 5 permanent members, including China, France, Russian Federation, the United Kingdom, and the United States, and 10 non-permanent members. The non-permanent members are elected by the General Assembly for 2-year terms. Each council member has one vote. Decisions on procedural matters are made by an affirmative vote of at least 9 of the 15 members. Decisions on substantive matters require 9 votes, including the concurring votes of all 5 permanent members. This rule is often referred to as the veto power. A reform of the Security Council, including its membership, is under consideration. So, the United Nations Security Council is a critical international body responsible for upholding global peace and security, and discussions regarding potential reforms, including changes to its membership. This is a significant topic as it could impact the Council's effectiveness and its ability to represent and address global security challenges. The ongoing discussion reflects the importance of ensuring that the Security Council remains relevant and capable of addressing the evolving nature of International Security Council. Third is the Economic and Social Council, or ECOSOC, is the principal organ to coordinate the economic, social, and related work of the United Nations and the specialized agencies and institutions. Voting in the Council is by simple majority. Also, each member has one vote. So, this council facilitates discussions and initiatives aimed at addressing global economic and social challenges. Voting within the council is conducted by a simple majority, with each member possessing one vote, allowing for equitable representation and decision-making. Fourth is International Court of Justice, is located at The Hague in the Netherlands, is the principal judicial organ of the United Nations. It settles legal disputes between states and gives advisory opinions to the UN and its specialized agencies. Its statute is an integral part of the United Nations Charter. So, this court plays a very important role in setting legal disputes between states and providing advisory opinions to the UN and its specialized agencies. Its statute is an integral part of the United Nations Charter, underscoring its significance in upholding international law and resolving conflicts through legal means. Next is the Trusteeship Council, was established in 1945 by the UN Charter to provide international supervision for 11 trust territories placed under the administration of 7 member states and ensure that adequate steps were taken to prepare the territories for self-government and independence. By 1994, all trust territories had attained self-government or independence. Its work completed, the Council has amended its rules for procedure to meet as and where occasion may require. So, its primary goal was to ensure that these territories were prepared for self-government and independence. Over time, all trust territories achieved self-government or independence, leading to the Council amending its rules of procedure to meet as and where necessary. The last one is the Secretariat, an international staff working in duty station around the world carries out the diverse day-to-day work of the organization. It services the other principal organs of the United Nations and administers the programmers and policies laid down by them. So, Secretariat is a global team of international staff working in various locations worldwide. They are responsible for the day-to-day operations of the UN, providing support to the organization's principal organs and implementing their programs and policies.
On June 26, 1945, in the city of San Francisco, a historic event took place that would change the course of international diplomacy and cooperation: the official establishment of the United Nations. This gathering, attended by the representatives from different corners of the world, resulted in the signing of the UN Charter, which is a document containing the principles and objectives that will guide the newly founded organization in its mission to preserve international peace and security, promote human rights, and support the socio-economic and cultural development of countries. The Article 111 ng Charter ay partikular na mahalaga sapagkat itinakda nito ang legal at opisyal na katangian ng dokumento. Binigyan din rin dito sa artikulong ito na ang charter na isinalin sa 5 pangunahing wika ng mundo: Chino, Pranses, Ruso, Ingles at Espanyol ay magkakaroon ng pantay na bisa at awtoridad. Ipinahiwatig nito ang pagnanais ng mga tagapagtatag ng UN na gawing inklusibo at accessible ang mga prinsipyo at layunin ng organisasyon sa iba't ibang bahagi ng mundo, anuman ang lingwahe o cultural na background. The provision that the original copy of the Charter shall remain in the archives of the government of the United States of America, and sending certified copies to other signatory states is a method to ensure the integrity and official recognition of the document. It symbolized the commitment of the signatory states to follow and implement the principles and objectives of the UN Charter. Ang pagtatatag ng UN at ang pagpirma sa kanyang charter ay kinikilala bilang isang makasaysayang sandali sa pagsisikap ng katauhan na magtayo ng isang mas mapayapa at mas magkakasundo daigdig. Despite the challenges and limitations the UN has faced over the years, this day in 1945 remains a reminder of the possibility of global cooperation and collective action for the good of all. 4 buwan matapos magwakas ang komperensya sa San Francisco, ay opisyal na nagsimula ang operasyon ng mga nagkakaisang bansa. This occurred when the UN Charter was ratified by the 5 permanent members of the Security Council, which are the China, France, the Soviet Union, the United Kingdom, and the United States, as well as a majority from other signatories. This day, now commemorated as the United Nations Day, marks the formal inception of the UN as an international organization whose purpose is to enable nations to work together to maintain world peace and security, promote respect for human rights, and contribute to the social and economic development of countries. The ratification process is an important step in establishing the legal validity of the UN Charter. This means that the signatory countries formally recognize the Charter as an international agreement, and they promise to abide by the principles and obligations contained in it. The agreement of the major powers and the majority of other signatories shows widespread support and commitment to the goals of the UN, despite the differing ideologies and interests of these countries. The formal establishment of the UN was a significant milestone in the history of international relations, as it opened a new chapter in humanity's efforts to work together to solve global problems through dialogue, cooperation, and collective action. This date reminds us of the constant need for international unity and the importance of the UN as a platform where nations can come together to talk, unite, and work together for a more peaceful and prosperous world. The foundation of United Nations marked a pivotal moment in global history, often regarded as the dawn of a new world of international cooperation and peacekeeping. This idea was propelled into existence amidst the horrors of World War II, a time when the need for a unified front against aggression and tyranny became painfully evident. The term United Nations was coined by U.S. President Franklin Delano Roosevelt in 1941 as he sought to describe the alliance of countries opposing the Axis powers, namely Germany, Italy, and Japan. This coalition was initially formed to counteract the military aggressions that threatened world peace and security. The formal usage of the name United Nations came on January 1, 1942, through a significant event where 26 states signed the declaration by the United Nations. This document was more than a symbolic gesture. It was a commitment by these countries to fight together against the Axis powers and to avoid negotiation peace deals independently of each other. This act of unity laid the groundwork for the establishment of the United Nations in 1945, aiming to maintain international peace and security, develop friendly relations among nations, and promote social progress, better living standards, and human rights.
Member countries. Global governance refers to the system of international cooperation and coordination among nations to address common challenges and promote collective goals. Member countries of global governance structures vary depending on the specific organization or framework involved. Some prominent examples include the following: United Nations or UN. Founded in 1945, the UN has 193 member states, which are sovereign nations recognized by the international community. Itinatag ang UN noong 1945 at mayroon itong 193 na mga kasapi na mga bansa. Noong itinatag ito ay layunin nitong panatilihin ang kapayapaan at seguridad sa buong mundo. Ang mga miyembrong estado na ito ay tinatawag na sovereign nations. This means that ito ang mga bansang may malayang kontrol sa kanilang sariling teritoryo. Ito rin ay nagpapakita ng malawak na suporta at pagtanggap sa mga layunin at prinsipyo ng UN mula sa iba't ibang bansa. International Monetary Fund or IMF. Established in 1944, the IMF has 190 member countries, each of which contributes to its funding and governance. Ang International Monetary Fund ay itinatag noong 1944 sa pamamagitan ng isang kasunduan na kilala bilang Bretton Woods Agreement. Ito ay may layuning panatilihin ang kalakalan, pagpapalakas ng ekonomiya, and to help other countries na humaharap sa mga suliraning pinansyal. World Bank Group, comprising 5 institutions, including the International Bank for Reconstruction and Development and the International Development Association. The World Bank has 189 member countries. Itinatag ito upang magbigay ng tulong pinansyal at teknikal sa mga bansa na nangangailangan ng pag-unlad sa kanilang infrastruktura at ekonomiya. There are 189 member countries that supports international community sa layunin ng World Bank na makatulong sa pag-unlad ng mga bansa sa buong mundo. World Trade Organization. Formed in 1995, the WTO has 164 member countries which negotiate and enforce global trade agreements. Layunin ng WTO na magbigay ng plataporma kung saan ang mga miyembro ay nag-uusap-usap at nagpapatupad ng kasunduan sa kalakalan. Pinapalakas rin nito ang pag-unlad ng pandaigdigang ekonomiya, and it gives opportunities to the countries na makilahok sa pandaigdigang merkado. International Labour Organization or ILO, founded in 1919, the ILO has 187 member states including both sovereign nations and non-sovereign entities like territories and dependencies. The ILO is an international organization that has 187 members, kabilang ang mga soberanong bansa at mga hindi soberanong entidad. Layunin nito na maprotektahan at mapabuti ang mga karapatan at kondisyon ng mga manggagawa sa buong mundo. It also supports international community sa pangangalaga sa mga karapatan at kapakanan ng mga manggagawa in different countries.
Good morning, this is our reporting, exploring the benefits, limitations, and challenges of United Nations. We embark on a nuanced journey to understand this pivotal organization's achievement and the obstacles it faces. Through the exploration, we aim to appreciate the UN's indispensable roles in promoting peace and global cooperation, while acknowledging the critical needs for reform and adaptation to ensure its effectiveness in addressing the evolving challenges of the 21st century. These are benefits of United Nations. Number one is addressing complex issues. It provides a framework for addressing complex global issues such as climate change, pandemics, and human rights violations that transcend national borders. Complex issues are those problems that do not have a simple answer. Instead, there's a lot of potential answers, and there are links or interdependence between different things. That means that solving part of a problem might create new ones. Number two is promoting peace and security. By facilitating cooperation and dialogue among nations, it helps prevent conflicts and promote peace and security globally. How can we promote peace and security? Treat all people with kindness regardless of race, gender orientation, and sexual orientations and religion. No matter what we are, they're also humans who we should respect and treat them right, and do not engage in violence of kind. Number three is fostering economic development. Global governance frameworks such as international trade agreements and financial regulations can promote economic development and reduce poverty worldwide. The people in developing countries tend the many children. These children die younger than their rich counterparts because they lack of access, proper sanitation, nutrition, and health service. As a result, developing countries are much younger than developed countries. Number four is protecting human rights. It helps establish and enforce international standards for human rights, promoting dignity and equality and justice for all individuals regardless of nationality. We have many human rights. I give you two. First is we have a freedom of thought, religion, and beliefs. You can believe what you like and practice your religion or beliefs. Let's respect whatever people, religion, and beliefs is to respect your beliefs too. Number five is enhancing environmental protection. Through agreements like a Paris Climate Accords, global governance efforts aim to mitigate environmental degradations and preserve natural resources for future generations. For example, renewable energy resources such as solar and wind power can help to reduce carbon emissions because they do not emit harmful greenhouse gases. Number six is promoting health and being well. Organizations like the World Health Organization who play a crucial role in coordinating responses to global health crises and improving healthcare access worldwide. Increasing access to healthy foods and physical activity opportunities. A healthy diet and regular physical activity can help prevent cancer, heart disease, stroke, diabetes, and some kinds of cancers. Last is fostering cultural exchange. Global governance frameworks encourage cultural exchange and understanding, promoting diversity and tolerance among nations and peoples. When you experience a different culture, and through educational and cultural exchange, you gain a deeper understanding of yourself and those around you, deepening your knowledge of foreign cultures and strengthening international relationships. These are benefits of United Nations. Overall, temporary global governance strives to create a more interconnected and sustainable world where nations work together to tackle shared challenges and promote common goals. Next is limitation of United Nations. Number one is limited enforcement mechanism. Many international agreements lack of effectively enforcement mechanism, making it difficult to ensure compliance with the agreed upon standards and regulations. There are many agreements that are not fulfilled due to lack of knowledge of mechanism, so the many suffer because you did not stick the agreement. Number two is sovereignty concerns. Nations may be reluctant to cede authority to supranational organizations, leading to challenges in implementing global governance measures, especially in areas perceived as infringing on national sovereignty. They are the ones who should obey the laws of the country because they are the ones who protect their country. Sovereignty concerns the experience and recognize right and exercise control over the territory. Number three is power imbalances. Global governance structures may reflect and perpetuate existing power imbalances, with the wealthier and influential nations often exerting disproportionate influence over decision-making process. Power imbalance is a environment, relations or interactions where a one party has far more social power than the other. This places accountability on the stronger party to act ethical such as they don't take unfair advantage of their positions.
Number 4, fragmentation and efficiency, refers to a situation where there are numerous international organizations and initiatives working on similar or related issues. This proliferation can result in fragmentation, meaning that efforts become scattered or divided among different entities. As a consequence, there can be overlap where multiple organizations are addressing the same problem or working towards the same goal without necessarily coordinating their efforts. This fragmentation and overlap can lead to efficiencies in several ways, like duplication of efforts, lack of coherence, resource constraints, and difficulty in decision making. The proliferation of international organizations and initiatives can undermine the efficiency and effectiveness of global governance efforts by fragmenting resources, creating overlap, and impeding coordination and coherence in addressing pressing global challenges. Number 5, inadequate representation. In global governance refers to the situation where certain regions, marginalized communities, and non-state actors are not adequately represented in decision-making forums and processes at the global level. Addressing inadequate representation requires deliberate efforts to ensure diversity, inclusivity, and equity in global governance processes. This may involve initiatives such as increasing representation from underrepresented regions and in communities, empowering marginalized groups to participate meaningfully in decision making, and recognizing the importance of non state actors, such as civil society, organizations, and indigenous peoples, in shaping global policies and actions. By promoting greater representation, global governance can become more responsive, leg- legitimate, and effective in addressing the diverse needs and challenges facing the world today. Number 6, political gridlock. Disagreements among nations and competing interests can result in political gridlock, hindering the ability of global governance institutions to effectively address pressing global challenges. Political gridlock can have serious consequences as it hinders the ability of global governance institutions to effectively address urgent global challenges such as climate change, conflict resolution, and public health crisis. Overcoming gridlock requires diplomatic efforts to build consensus, foster trust, and find common ground among nations. It may also involve reforming and strengthening global governance institutions to make them more responsive and inclusive. By addressing political gridlock, global governance can become more effective in tackling the complex and interconnected issues facing the world today. Number 7. Lack of accountability. Accountability mechanisms within global governance structures may be weak or insufficient, making it challenging to hold individuals and institutions accountable for their actions or failures to act. The lack of accountability in global governance can erode trust in institutions and undermine their legitimacy and effectiveness. To address this, it is important to strengthen accountability mechanisms, enhance transparency and oversight, and promote a culture of accountability within global governance institutions. This may involve reforms to improve transparency, strengthen enforcement mechanism, and empower stakeholders to hold decision makers accountable for their actions. By enhancing accountability, global governance can become more responsible, and trustworthy in addressing the challenges facing the world. Last is resistance to change. Established interests and entrenched power structures may resist reforms aimed at strengthening global governance or addressing emerging global challenges. Resistance to change can impede progress in addressing pressing global challenges, such as climate change, poverty, and conflict. By hindering efforts to reform and adapt global governance structures to meet evolving needs. Overcoming resistance to change requires strategic efforts to build consensus, mobilize support, and address the concerns of stakeholders. It may involve fostering dialogue, raising awareness about the benefits of reforms, and highlighting the urgency of addressing global challenges.
There are 8 challenges in contemporary global governance. 1. Complexity of global issues. Global governance must grapple with increasingly complex challenges such as climate change, pandemics, security threats, and economic inequality, which require coordinated and multifaceted responses. Climate change is one of the major challenges of our time, from shifting weather patterns that threaten food production to rising sea levels that increase the risk of catastrophic flooding. The impact of climate change are global in scope and unprecedented in scale. 2. Rise of nationalism and populism. The resurgence of nationalism and populist movements in many parts of the world can undermine international cooperation and weaken support for global governance initiatives. According to Roger Itwell and Matthew Goodwin, national populists prioritize the culture and interests of the nation and promise to give voice to a people who feel that they have been neglected, even held in contempt by distant and corrupt elites. Number 3. Emerging technologies. Rapid advancement in technologies such as artificial intelligence, biotechnology, and cyberweapon present novel challenges for global governance, including concerns related to ethics, security, and regulation. Automation and AI can lead to displacement as machines and algorithms can perform tasks that were previously done by humans. This has led to concerns about job loss and the need of retraining and upskilling of workers. Privacy and security concerns are also challenged when living with emerging technologies. 4. Growing economic disparities. Economic globalization has led to growing disparities between rich and poor nations as well as within countries, exacerbating social tensions and undermining confidence in global governance institutions. Some causes of economic inequality are differences in marginal products, differences in tax structures, human capital, social capital, inheritance, discrimination, and the bargaining power within economic and social units. 5. Environmental degradation. Despite international effort to address environmental challenges, ongoing deforestation, pollution, loss of biodiversity, and other forms of environmental degradation threaten the sustainability of ecosystem and human well-being. Environmental degradation is deterioration of the environment through depletion of resources such as air, water, and soil, the destruction of ecosystem, and the extinction of wildlife. It is defined as any change of disturbance to the environment perceived to be deleterious of undesirable. 6. Geopolitical tensions. Rising geopolitical tensions between major powers, regional conflict, and territorial disputes pose significant obstacle to global governance efforts and increase the risk of conflict escalation. Put simply, geopolitics refers to political factors that are between countries or regions. For example, politics between the US and China, or more recently Russia and Ukraine. Geopolitical tensions are exactly what they sound like, political issues between or involving two or more countries that cause tension or unrest.
Number 7. Weak multilateralism refers to a situation where the principles and practices of multilateralism, which involve cooperation and decision making among multiple countries or actors, are not effectively upheld or utilized in global governance processes. This challenge can manifest in several ways: lack of commitment to multilateralism, undermining of multilateral institutions, erosion of trust and cooperation, and lastly, fragmentation and gridlock. Addressing the challenge of weak multilateralism requires reaffirming the importance of multilateral cooperation, strengthening multilateral institutions, and promoting dialogue and cooperation among nations. It also involves fostering a sense of shared responsibility for addressing global challenges and addressing the underlying factors that contribute to unilateralism and distrust. By strengthening multilateralism, global governance can become more effective in addressing the complex and interconnected challenges.
8. Pandemics and health crisis. The COVID-19 pandemic highlighted the vulnerabilities of global governance system in responding to health emergencies, including issues related to coordination, equitable access to vaccines and treatments, and misinformation.
The challenges facing global governance are significant and multi-phase, ranging from fragmentation and inefficiency to inadequate representation, political gridlock, lack of accountability, resistance to change, and weak multilateralism. Addressing these challenges requires concerted efforts from all stakeholders, including governments, international organizations, civil society, and private sector. By strengthening cooperation, promoting inclusivity, enhancing transparency and accountability, and fostering a commitment to multilateralism, we can build a more resilient, responsive, and effective global governance framework. Only through collective action and shared responsibility can we address the complex interconnected challenges facing our world and ensure a brighter future for generations to come. That's all. Thank you.